About other shellless mollusks that actually don't have this kind of protection, and one of them is the sea slug. So the sea slug, basically, these things by and large are not poisonous. They don't have a shell. They look somewhat like, in some cases, they look somewhat like land slugs, and they don't really have this great method of protecting themselves. But there's one sea slug that I want to talk about that's done something that's really pretty remarkable, because many sea slugs, what they've done is they actually protect themselves by ingesting the chloroplast, or they're algae eaters, so they'll eat the algae, and then they will take the chloroplast from the algae, and they'll actually use the chlorophyll from that to color their bodies, and that will enable them to be green, the color of algae, and then they can sit on top of algae, and they pretty much blend in with the algae. But there's one in particular, which is the one that is shown on page, what was that page number? Let me get the book out. But I'd like to call that to your attention. So it's on page, well, actually it doesn't really mention this organism on the page, but it's on page 73, where it's showing something called prochloron, which is a bacterium. Let's see if I can show you this here. And you can see this, this is the prochloron, and they're showing how a prochloron, it says here that this bacterium was once thought to be closely related to the symbiotic photosynthetic bacteria that gave rise to chloroplast, which is what I was talking about before. It's now indicated that it was something very much like prochloron, but not that particular bacterium. But nevertheless, what I do want to talk to you about is not that organism, but it's another organism which is called E. chlorotica. Now, E. chlorotica is another, I'm going to see if I can, I've got a picture of this, I'm going to see if I can pull this up and show it to you, because rather than showing you a black and white picture, I'd like to show you a colored picture of this organism. If I can get this up, bear with me just for a moment. Okay, so I want to show you a picture of this, and here we've got a nice one. And this is a picture of E, which the E is actually the genus Alesia. So this is Alesia chlorotica. Let me take my camera and put it back here. You can see this. And what you'll notice is, what does it look like? Well, it looks kind of like a leaf, doesn't it? If we look at this, forgive me for not being able to hold the camera really still. I'm going to try to do that, but my hand is a bit shaky. Well, let me try this again. See if I can hold this way. So you can see what look like little, almost like veins going through here. Well, actually, this is the digestive system of this animal. This animal has a very extensive digestive system. Its digestive system runs all along the surface. Now, what you're looking at is a dorsal view of the animal. Over here is its head. And these things are known as parapodia. The parapodia are extended whenever there's light. When this thing feels threatened, it'll curl these things up. It'll look like a curled leaf. But when there's light out, it's just basking in the sun, and you notice that it's nice and green. And right behind it, if I can get a view of that, you'll see some other structures here. And this is what it's feeding on. So it's feeding on this particular plant, which is called V. laturia. And this is a green algae. V. laturia is a green algae. And this algae, what this organism does is it actually has a very, very sharp tooth that it can use to actually puncture. It's quite small. It's only about 1 to maybe 2.5 or so centimeters in length, the sea slug. And basically what it will do is it will use this tooth to actually puncture these sort of cylindrical blades of this algae, and it will actually extract or filter out the contents. But what it does is it actually only takes in the chloroplast. It doesn't take in the nuclear material, so it's not taking in the nuclear DNA. It's only taking in the chloroplast DNA. And remarkably, and that's what makes this organism so unusual. There are other organisms that do this, and there are other sea slugs that do this. But all of those other sea slugs, what they do is they'll take these things in. The chloroplast basically probably only lasts for a few days, and then they have to feed again, and they have to get more chloroplast. Otherwise, they're going to lose their color. So in this particular organism, though, what's interesting about it is it doesn't have to feed all the time, because what it does is it's actually incorporated, even though it hasn't done this over an evolutionarily long time period, as it actually takes the chloroplast in. It's believed that some of the chloroplast DNA actually gets transferred. There's a lateral gene transfer where the chloroplast DNA from the V. latoria actually gets into the sea slug. And once that actually happens, then the sea slug, even though the chloroplast is actually, when it duplicates itself, it's not duplicating all of the genes necessary for all of the proteins that are required for its growth. Nevertheless, it's able to duplicate enough of those that the remaining ones are actually being produced by the native organism, that is the sea slug itself. So the Alesia chlorotica ingests the Vaucheria, the V. latoria chloroplast, and they can actually function for probably as long as about a year. I think that's about the record. So if this organism doesn't actually feed for an entire year, it can nevertheless keep these, and these things are considered to be naked foreign organelles. So they're sustained just by living within the sea slug cytosol, which is extraordinarily unusual. So that's something that really I can't think of any other example of an organism that does anything like this. But it's a very, very exciting kind of thing. So people now are actually doing research with this organism. They're trying to find out particularly whether this actually does involve this lateral gene transfer, which, as I say, normally takes place over very, very long periods of time. I mean, lateral gene transfer could take hundreds of thousands of years, but this might be an example of a lateral gene transfer that's actually occurring. I mean, literally within weeks or months. So a very, 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 very rapid transfer of this genetic information. But by doing this, this organism is actually able to survive for without eating anything else for periods of time of up to a year, if in case the food supply is actually cut off. So I hope you found that informative, and hopefully at some point in time we might be able to get some examples of this or other sea slugs to be able to show you before the end of the course. So again, thank you for your attention.